In chapter 1 of Book Lambda in the Metaphysics, Aristotle starts by stating, our whole investigation is into substance. More specifically, it is this investigation into the principles and causes of the substances. Substance is more fundamental than quality or quantity, he says. This statement means that substance cannot be a quality, such as a color or feeling, and neither can substance be a quantity, such as a number. There are three substances: the sensible eternal, the sensible destructible, and the unmoved. The sensible eternal substances are those heavenly bodies such as the stars and planets that can be sensed yet were never generated and can never be destroyed. The sensible destructible substances are life forms, plants and animals. Recall that a substance for Aristotle is not the mere matter of which something is made, but the form or species that imparts itself to that matter. Aristotle writes that sensible substance is susceptible to change, so there must be some underlying thing changing. There must be something that changes, so it is not change that is substance, but that which undergoes change. In chapter 2, Aristotle states that there are four kinds of change that correspond to the four kinds of a question. First, what is X? Second, what is X like? Third, how great is X? And fourth, where is X at? He explains these four kinds of change as follows. First, generation and destruction. Second, quantitative change. Third, qualitative change. And fourth, location change. Change takes place from potential to actualization, from potentiality to actuality in the above four kinds. Everything that changes has matter, but the sensible eternal things have a type of matter that is susceptible only to the fourth kind of change, which is location change. Chapter 3 states that when a thing undergoes change, there is first matter that undergoes change, second, some mover that changes it, and third, some form into which it changes. To understand Aristotle's point, consider a child. As a child develops, the matter of its body constantly changes. The child was caused efficiently by the parents, and it develops into the adult form for which it always had the potential. However, there will be an infinite regress problem in explaining change unless such causal explanation eventually comes to a stop. For instance, parents can be called the efficient cause of the child, but the parents will need to be explained by their parents and then grandparents, all the way back to prehistoric eras. Aristotle mentions here that there must be some stop, some original cause that instigates all the other causes and thus things of the world. This cause will be God, as the reader shall soon see. Now Aristotle moves on to claim that there are three kinds of substance. First, matter. Second, a thing's nature, that is the form of something. And third, the composite particular, which means the combined matter and form. Chapter 6 properly starts the theological study of the metaphysics. As stated in chapter 1, there are three chief substances: two natural sensible, and the third, a kind of eternal, unmoved substance. If all substances are destructible, then everything is destructible, including movement and time itself. Aristotle states that time is either identical to movement or is some attribute of it. However, Aristotle then says it is impossible for movement and time to be destroyed or created at any point. Thus, movement and time are infinite in both past and future, but there still needs to be an ultimate cause or reason for infinite movement and time. This cause cannot itself be caused by something else, as that would need to be caused itself and so on infinitely, which would mean not explaining movement and time. Therefore, to explain movement and time requires an uncaused cause. This uncaused cause of infinite movement and time cannot exist as potentiality, because that which is potential may not always actualize itself, and the uncaused cause is a cause of conscious, continuous, infinite movement. That means the uncaused cause must be actual. As the uncaused cause must be the cause of movement, it cannot itself be subject to movement and change, as that means it would again be caused by something else, and so on infinitely. Therefore, the substance that is the uncaused cause cannot be matter, since matter is subject to movement and change. The uncaused cause must be an immaterial substance. Aristotle writes, suppose we were to accept the natural philosophers' claim that all things were originally together. If so, it presents the problem of determining how everything will be set in motion unless there is actually some cause of movement, because matter is not going to set itself in motion. Matter is caused to move by other things. There must therefore be an actual, immaterial, unchanging, unmoving prime cause of all the movement and thus time of the universe. Note that this is not a cause at the beginning of the universe, because for Aristotle there was no beginning of the universe. It is rather an ultimate underlying cause of the infinitely moving universe. It is the reason for the existence of the moving universe in which human beings live. The famous chapter 7 of Book Lambda characterized the uncaused cause of the universe as God. The cause of this movement is the mover of movement itself, the prime mover, which cannot itself move. It moves without being moved, Aristotle says. He adds that it will be eternal, will be a substance, and will be an activation, as the reader also saw in the previous chapter. Now Aristotle must answer the question of how something can move something else without itself moving. Just as the object of desire and object of thought produce movement by moving without being moved, the uncaused cause moves things by being an object of desire and thought. The reader may consider that a person often moves towards an object of desire or thought. The ice-cold beverage in the refrigerator does not itself move, but it nonetheless causes the movement of its thirsty owner by being an object of desire. It is the final cause of the owner's movement. Aristotle gives the examples of appetite and wish, and he says that they are good objects of thought and desire. Human beings desire things that are good, rather than thinking something is good because they desire it. It is a thought that starts things off, Aristotle says. By being the ultimate good, the prime mover acts as the ultimate object of thought and desire, because things always ultimately desire what is good. Moreover, the prime mover acts as the ultimate object of desire primarily in the heavens and through them in everything else. In other words, the eternal prime mover is directly the object of desire for the heavenly bodies, thereby causing their infinite rotation. In turn, this cosmic rotation has cumulative, indirect, causal effects on all the other things of the world. The prime mover is the final cause of movement, whereas the heavens are the first efficient cause of movement. As the prime mover must be the ultimate good in order to be the ultimate object of thought and desire, the question arises as to what such a good is. This ultimate good is the excellence of contemplation or supreme thinking. Such thinking is accompanied by supreme pleasure. Thus, the prime mover as the ultimate object of desire is supreme thinking itself. The prime mover is thinking. Still, the question remains, if the prime mover is supreme thinking, then what is the prime mover thinking about? As supreme thought, it can only have as its object of thought a supreme subject, and that object is itself. Therefore, the prime mover is thought thinking about itself. This idea is elaborated upon in Book Lambda, chapter 9, where Aristotle says that with the prime mover, the object and subject of thought do not differ. Further, since God thinks, God is alive, because the activation of thought is alive, and He is that activation. In summary, the cause of all movement in time is God, who is an actual, eternal, unmoving, living, immaterial, indivisible substance, finding supreme pleasure in thinking about itself. In chapter 8, Aristotle asks whether we should admit one such God or many. The stars seem to move in one unified rotation, but the planets and comets move in several different rotations in relation to Earth. If a prime mover directly causes the rotation of the stars, perhaps there are a number of prime movers for each of the rotations of the planets as well. Then, instead of positing such a plurality of gods, Aristotle argues that there is probably only one God after all, because prime mover is immaterial and therefore indivisible, and thus cannot be divided into a plurality.